It's been a rowdy year of debate at the Alberta Legislature, with the ruling UCP getting its way on several contentious bills, despite public outcry. So today, we're going to talk to the leader of the official opposition, the NDP's Naheed Nenshi, about how his party fought to keep the government accountable and how he plans to steer the party and their message to Albertans in 2026. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
It was a hugely challenging year going up against the majority UCP government, the use of the notwithstanding clause. What were some of the moments you remember that the NDP succeeded in exposing what was really happening for the public?
It's almost a year now that the first inklings of what we call the corrupt care scandal came out. And a lot of Albertans don't understand this scandal because it's so complicated. But what's very simple to understand is allegedly, the government gave a whole bunch of contracts, maybe $1 billion or more of contracts, to friends of the government. And so beginning there, what we really saw was Albertans were seeing through this government. And we, through the whole summer, did a program called Better Together. We knocked on 200,000 doors. We showed up at every small town rodeo and parade. We went to dog parks and music festivals, and we hosted a series of town halls across the province from Grand Prairie to Lethbridge, which had nearly as many people as the Alberta Next town halls that the government spent $1 million of taxpayer money advertising. We heard from citizens on what they care about. You know, they care about the cost of living, about the economy, about healthcare, about education. They really hate separatism. And we use that to craft, an agenda for Albertans. But what we tried to do was show Albertans, what does a government in waiting look like? We put forth legislation on the minimum wage, on dealing with grocery prices, on auto insurance, on developing incentives for the energy sector to invest in a better electricity grid and bring down people's electricity prices, on whistleblower protections for healthcare workers, to really give people a sense of who we are. So in politics, you always ask yourself the question, who's winning this legislative session? And I always wondered, what does that even mean, right? What does it mean to win a session? Because we lose every vote, right? We're the minority, and they ram through everything over us. In this fall, I understood what it meant to be winning, that Albertans were saying, we're with you, continue to fight for us. Very quick anecdote. When it looked like they were going to legislate the teachers back to work, I spoke with a bunch of teachers and I said, listen, the best I'll be able to do, they have a majority, the best I'll be able to do is delay it by 1 day. And you're not getting strike pay. Do you want us to stand down so you get at least 1 more day of work? And every single teacher said to me, give them hell. It's worth a day of work.
It sounds like you've been, boots on the ground, door to door, speaking with Albertans. But some people criticize that you were lacking some high-profile presence maybe in the House while all of these controversies were going on. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, it's certainly changed. It's no one saying that anymore. And in politics, you do stuff on the ground, you do stuff in the air. And certainly being in the House has been tremendously helpful in terms of being in the air. But at the same time, we also use this fall to launch a new way that we communicate with people. And no one likes to talk about the politics of politics. But we launched a new campaign that ends with the tagline, "We're ready," that talks about how we can be better. And that has been tremendous. And people are really starting to understand who we are and what we stand for.
Do you feel then that you are engaging rural voters more in tune to what the NDP is all about?
I think the critical thing here is, and of course we've been everywhere and talking to people. And so when I travel across Alberta, I hear these stories over and over again. The government takes us for granted. They think they're always going to win here, so they don't focus on our issues. And those basic issues are the cost of living, sustainable jobs now and in the future, healthcare and education in a very different and very real way than we might see in the cities. So if we were at the Royal Alex Hospital today, we might have to wait in the ER for 12 hours. But in many communities in Alberta, you have to drive past a closed ER to get to an open one. The UCP takes rural Alberta for granted, and even if the NDP support is concentrated in the cities, we never will.
You're already getting ready for the next election, it sounds. So there is one, in a couple years away.
Maybe earlier.
Maybe.
We have no idea.
And healthcare obviously is a huge one. But voters really are still going to be concerned about affordability and jobs. So with the UCP repeatedly kind of criticizing the NDP or insisting that you're going to raise taxes. What is your plan for the economy and personal and corporate income tax?
Well, New Democrats always hear, we know you're better on healthcare, we know you're better on education, we know you have the same values as me, but the economy. But these folks are bad with the economy. And my record in Calgary, 11 years of balanced budgets, 11 straight balanced budgets, the lowest taxes in the country, and the highest quality of life in the country. I think that speaks for itself.
What would your plan be, though, for corporate taxes?
Well, so let's back up, because it's not about taxes initially, it's about budgeting. So we have to balance the budget. We have to figure out the right way to balance the budget, because debt is just deferred taxation. And we have to, that means it's taxes that your kids and your grandkids have to pay with interest. We have to keep taxes low and competitive. That's really important. But the number one most important thing is you've got to grow the economy. So you have to make sure that you're creating jobs. So should we form government soon, knock on wood, inshallah, as I say, we're going to inherit a fiscal mess. But the good news is we know how to fix them, and we will.
Do you believe in the pipeline to the coast?
100%. We built one. You know, you don't get to be the mayor of Calgary without really knowing the oil and gas industry well. And I had a front row seat on how Trans Mountain got built. So the memorandum of understanding that the premier signed with the prime minister, now we have a UCP Liberal alliance, who knew, is a really good first step. But it's like scoring a goal in the first period. You're kind of are starting with a small lead, but now you got to roll up your sleeves. You got to work with Indigenous communities. You got to work with communities along the route. You got to have a route. You've got to work with private sector proponents who are scared about the price of oil going down and they don't want to invest billions of dollars now. You have to give them some assurances of stability, and you have to do the hard work. And you know, you can't call the chief of the Coastal First Nations and say, hey, you want a pipeline? Because that just puts people's backs up against the wall, and that's what this government has done.
Is there anything else you would like to add today?
You know, times are rough right now. Politics right now are so divisive. They're really focused on getting people angry. And the UCP government is frankly shameless. You know, all kinds of shady as heck things going on. And, you know, they'll just stand up. We have a Minister of Justice who stood up to introduce a bill to give himself immunity. I mean, that's crazy. This doesn't happen in normal places. They banned any other party from being conservative. But my message to Albertans is forget about it. You deserve a better government. You don't have to stand for this. And the good news is you have an option. You have a great option with me and my colleagues in Alberta's New Democrats. You have an option to understand if you want a better Alberta, and we all do, if you want an Alberta that's about big, audacious goals and building a better life for everyone, then we need a better government. I always say you can't dream small under a sky that big. And it's our opportunity to stop being defensive, stop being angry, and focus on what we can accomplish together, because that's what we've always done.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all the viewers. Hopefully we can all exhale a little bit after this crazy year, and all the best for 2026.